He's a gem. And we
He
got Jay
is.
Wallens.
He is.
Jay Wallen's been patiently waiting, listening to all those shenanigans.
Is this Jay?
This is Jay, supposedly. Jay, are you there?
I am there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
I,
loud and clear, man. You still driving? Or you home yet?
Awesome. I'm almost home. Close.
All right, all right.
you got that Knob
Close
Creek
enough.
open yet?
Oh man, I've been staring at it.
Is it staring back at you? That's the real question.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
is. That
Oh man. So tell us a little bit about what we've got to expect here. We've seen some hype posts. What are you thinking? What are you thinking Kentucky Lake's going to give us this weekend?
man, I tell you what, I fished Kentucky Lake on Saturday and all day today. And the lakes, I say lakes. Barkley, in my opinion, is struggling a little bit. I did not do very good on Barkley. Um, but the last bass boat tournament out there was won on Barkley. So
Yeah.
yeah, kind of hard to say that. But
Them old
there's a
boys get to
lot of
cover a little bit more water though, to be
they
honest.
do, they do the old run and gun stuff. I will say this though, man, there's a lot of fish in the lake. I mean, and I don't mean carp.
I
Like
was
there's a
gonna
lot
say
of bass.
bass. Okay. All right.
There's a lot of bass in the lake. Not every creek is loaded. There's some obviously that are better than others, but you know, some of the areas I went to today, I mean, there's just a lot of 14 to 15 and a half inch fish.
Ooh.
Every now and then you run into a 17, 18 incher, but you know, I think you're going to see a little bit more limits than a lot of people are thinking.
I like it. I like the sound of it. I
I just don't
mean,
know how big they're going to be. You know,
I, what's it looking like timing wise? I mean, you think the bite's going to be pretty consistent for a lot of people, or do you think it's going to be kind of a funk? I know some of these lakes, Chickamauga, this past weekend, Chickamauga did okay, but the couple weeks before that, it was kind of in that post spawn funk where they're not out deep yet. They're just kind of scattered around. I mean, what are you thinking it's going to be like as far as kind of the transition phase of the fish?
they're definitely in transition right now. I'm seeing a ton of fry, and there's some areas where you'll go through a stretch of bank and you'll get maybe 2, 3 bites real quick, and then you go for long periods of time without a bite. Um, they do seem to be a little bit scattered. Um, but I'll just throw this out there. I probably shouldn't, but I'm catching a lot of fish shallow.
Ooh.
You know, you can flip bushes. Um, there's not a whole lot of bank grass that I've been seeing. You know, I love fishing that water willow, and the water willow's just not quite come in yet. But the lake's up to like 360. The water's up, and so I think as long as the water continues to come up, I think the fishing's going to stay pretty consistent, and consistently pretty good. I mean, if you get it in front of them, they're eating.
Okay.
Um, I did see a bass on the bed today.
What?
Um, I did.
Goodness
I only
gracious.
saw. It's the only fish I've seen in 2 days on Kentucky Lake on the bed. And I threw a Cinco at it, and my Cinco barely touched the water, and that fish had it immediately.
Sounds like a
So
good fish.
yeah, it was 18 incher. It was a
Sweet
solid
girl.
fish.
Sweet girl.
Yeah, but I am seeing some carp, but it's nothing like what it used to be. Instead of seeing just wall to wall, you know, if you run a side scan down those, you know, those bays 3, 4 years ago, it was just you couldn't throw a bait out without rolling it across the back of a carp. And
I'd go as far as about 7 months ago.
well, yeah, I understand. But what I'm seeing the last few days out there, I'm seeing groups of like 5 and 6, and there's
Instead of
just
five
little
and six
pods.
thousand.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
So
good.
they're around. You know, they're still. If you, you know, of course, I'm using my Newport motor, and if you fire up your motor, and all of a sudden you spook about 30 of them that are up on the surface, and
Oh yeah.
you know that's still going on. But there's a lot of bait. There's a lot of bait in the lake. There's little emerald shiners. I saw a school of gizzard shad today. I'm every now and then you'll see a bait ball, and you know, gosh, I couldn't tell you the last time I saw a bait ball on Kentucky Lake on my graph. So you know, It's improving. That's what I'll say. I'll say
Yeah.
Kentucky Lake is improving.
Do you think
It's
it's
still
going
not.
to affect the performance with the boundaries being at, Paris and above?
Yes, yes, because I think we all know that some of those creeks in the south that are spring fed, close to where Tennessee deposits those Florida strain bass, those creeks, we all know about them without naming them, but like those creeks are just anomalies in the whole Kentucky Lake system.
Mhm.
And with those not in the boundaries, I'll be honest with you, and I haven't been able to do it, but if a person could get on 5 smallmouth each day, they could absolutely run away with this tournament.
I think that's going to be the trick, though. I mean, there are a lot of trophy class smallmouth, but to get 5 of them in a day, I mean,
it,
we saw it
yeah,
in our state championship, but that was a 2-day tournament, best 5, and I still think he had 1 largemouth on his stringer, but he had 4,
yeah,
healthy adult, 18 to 21 inch smallmouth. So
yeah.
I
Now
agree.
there's plenty of those out there, and from what I understand, those bass boat guys that are catching them really good, they are having to run and gun a lot. They're point hopping. They're dropping that forward facing sonar, and if they might pick off 1 or 2 smallmouth off a point, and then they're running to another one. That's hard to do in a kayak. Um, you know, I I've lucked into a couple decent smallmouth the last few times out there, but I have not been able to unlock the code to just catch 5, 6, 7, 8 smallmouth in a day. I just haven't quite been able to figure that out.
Do you think
So
those fish are more scattered on Kentucky Lake instead of kind of, grouped up or packed up? Like if you look at Kentucky Lake, there's so many miles of
yeah,
rocky shoreline and points. I feel like they're just not, they don't have to be as concentrated as some other lakes where they're just limited to like one section of the lake.
yeah, yeah. No, there's no question they're spread out. Um, the good news is there's a lot of them, but they are spread out. My understanding, I was reading the fishing reports online from Brandon Hunter and a lot of those guys, and what they were saying was that 2, 3 weeks ago, there was a big wave of smallmouth that came up to spawn for that Toyota series, and they just kind of had a perfect storm
Mhm.
of smallmouth coming up to spawn. And if you've ever fished for smallmouth during the spawn, they're idiots. They are stupid,
Wow.
stupid fish.
Wow. Okay,
You
Jeff.
can't say
They
that.
they are.
Jesus.
They're
Come
dumb.
on, man.
They're dumb.
It's rude.
And you can just catch them. You can slay them. And I think that party is over. So I think the smallmouth bite could get a little bit tougher. But I'll tell you this: whoever wins this tournament, they're going to have some big smallmouth in their limit. It may not be all smallmouth, but there'll be 1 or 2 kicker smallmouth mixed in the bag. I have no doubts about that.
What about the lake? You said there's bait showing up. You hadn't seen
Yeah.
bait in a long time. What's changing? Because I mean, I have a hard time believing they've got a handle on those carp, or do they have a handle on them? What's changing there?
It's hard to say that they do have a handle on it, but it's improved. One of the biggest things that if you listen to some of the biologists around here, the carp do get a lot of blame, and rightfully so, for the downturn in fishing productivity out there. But what really happened was between like 2015 to like 2018, maybe even 2019, there were terrible, terrible spawn years. And what was happening was we would get these high water events early in the season, like late March, early April, and it would get real warm and the water would come up, and all those fish would run to the banks and spawn. And then the TVA, because it was ahead of schedule, would lower the lake back down to winter pool and leave all those beds and all those eggs high and dry. And that happened like 3, 4 years in a row. And then over the last 4 or 5 years, we've had really, really good spawns, and we're starting to reap the benefits of some of those good spawns. And I have to say, this year I think is another bumper year for the spawn, because I have never seen so many bass fry on Kentucky Lake than what I saw the last couple days. There are fry everywhere. There's not necessarily fry garters everywhere, but if you see fry, I mean, there's obviously bass in the area. So the spawn classes are getting better and better.
Do you think the gross reduction in the number of tournaments being held on Kentucky Lake is partly responsible for the lake coming back? Rephrase, do you think it was overfished before? Do you think that was a big contributing factor in the downturn of the lake?
I don't know that it was, because Kentucky Lake was getting tremendous amounts of pressure from, I mean, the early 90s, you know, hardcore tournament pressure from the early 90s all the way up to, you know, 2015, 2016. And the weights were always consistent for decades.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's such a big waterway. There's the population of fish was so big. I don't think that it was overfished. I just think that those few years where I think it was a perfect storm of carp, terrible spawn classes, and maybe even some water quality issues with some of those floods and high water events.
Was it Kentucky Lake where we were seeing pictures of all the fish kills post tournament, where they were just floating up on the bank? Where was that?
Yes. Yeah, it was.
And that was kind of where I was going with that. Like those ledge bites, you know, these guys are out there and they're catching the big spawners out of these schools, and they're floating dead everywhere. Like I in my head, I have to think that somehow that was a factor, at least in the trophy class of the fish. Maybe not the, 15 to 17-inch fish, but
you're right about that. And those big fish are the ones that get stressed the most and end up having the highest mortality.
They get big eyes and tan skin.
That's right. They get a little swollen.
Yeah,
and
looking for a shot leg out there.
Yeah, and I recall, I believe it, and I don't mean to throw them under the bus. It's not just them, but that Triton Boats Owners Tournament.
Yeah,
they always had that in mid-June, and the water. You're looking at 80-degree water, and it was just really stressful.
That was the one out of Paris, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And they always had 200 boats. Yeah.
Yeah. Y'all ever think in the South? I mean, it's probably never would happen, but up north they have these different seasons where you're not even allowed to tournament fish or fish for certain fish. You think that would ever happen down in the southeast on some of these challenge lakes? No way in hell.
No,
we eat them to live, brother.
I mean, if you ever want to have a reenactment of the Civil War, go tell Alabama and Tennessee boys they can't fish during the spawn. Yeah,
that ain't gonna go well.
It ain't gonna fly.
No, I'm not advocating for that. Yeah, I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying I've seen a few posts in a few different places talking about that, and I just don't.
Yeah, I don't think it. Obviously, I don't think it would hurt. But I don't necessarily think that tournaments. The tournament anglers catch such a small percentage of the bass that live in a lake. I don't know how big of an impact it really has.
Randy Blockett would say it's a live scope getting them all.
So David Morris made a good comment. I've actually suggested this to Dennis Tumlin for summertime, especially the bigger boat tournaments, going to a CPR format for those hot summer ledge tournaments, just to try to keep from killing so many of the spawners.
Totally agree. I think we obviously have the technology to do it. Let's protect our resources. I mean, you want to have weigh-ins during the spring, that's fine. But as soon as June hits, June through September, let's do CPR.
Yep.
Yeah. People used to do paper tournaments, before. Now you don't have to mess with any of that. It's just Tourney X or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. No, we have the technology and the way to do it. It's just, it's hard to get these bass boat guys out of the weight mentality. They're all worried about, the weights, and they don't understand that it doesn't really matter. Like if you're doing inches or weight,
length matters.
Bistineau does. When we were down there fishing Caddo a few years ago, on Bistineau they had to video them weighing the fish, and that was their that was their weigh-in for their bass.
Hey, that works too. I mean, if you have everybody using the same scales, and you could definitely do that.
Yeah, I think that's what they handed out. They had whatever it was, like 50 calibrated scales, whatever.
Right.
But then you go out and video, and oh, you could cheat, you could put lead weights in their ass, whatever. But you can cheat, like as we just discussed earlier. Like,
yeah,
I mean, doing anything. Like, there's no way to make fishing cheater proof. There's not.
Anytime that's mentioned, all I think of is hearing that echo. There's weights in them damn fish from the.
I heard that. I was driving to the lake this morning. I heard that on the news because they were talking about the guys getting sentenced for that, and of course they had to play it. And we got weights in fish. I was just like, God bless.
I'm probably going to put weights in my fish this weekend. Actually, I don't know why.
It won't make it any longer.
I just wanted to see if they would go in. I don't know.
Keep them on the board, Ryan.
Guys, good. Get them a shot of leg and a weight and go on down the road with it.
Oh Lord! Steve just added to the.
Golly, do you have any fun sayings, Jay, on deck? Do you have anything tuned up for us that we might want to write down here?
Oh man,
what's your best Kentucky knee slapper you got pinned up there?
Doesn't have to be PG. We're good here.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything on deck for you. I can't compete with Steve-O.
No one can.
Lord have mercy.
No one can.
Not when I'm sober, anyway.
I told you to drink that Knob Creek on the way home.
Yeah, no, I'm saving it. But
save it for I'll tell you off the road.
That's right. But no, just to give you a quick rundown, Kentucky Lake, there's there's emerald shiners, there's fry, there's shad. You can fish shallow. You can go out and fish deep stuff. Fish are I'm catching fish a little bit of everywhere, honestly. I know that's kind of vague, but you can really target your strength right now because there's fish up shallow and there's fish transitioning out to some of the deeper stuff. So that's pretty much the game. And don't be surprised if you run into a big 19, 20-inch smallmouth because they are around.
Are you going to win this one, Jay?
Well, I don't know. I doubt it. I don't know what it's going to take. I'll say this. The last 2 days I've been out there fishing, my best 5 has been 85 inches the other day, and I think today I had 83. So, I mean, it's not great, you know what I mean? But I also wasn't fishing too hard either. So,
but 2 days of that, I mean, traditionally speaking, especially the past few years, 2 days of 85 inches on Kentucky Lake's going to cash you a check. Period.
Oh yeah. Now I think if I do what I did the last couple days out there, I think I'm in check range for sure. Yeah. I don't know about winning it though. I don't know. I still think if somebody can get those smallmouth figured out, I'm telling you, somebody could absolutely run away with it. You could have 96, 97 inches a day if you can figure it out.
Whoa. Jeff Sherwood was asking, what do you think it'll take? You think there's going to be one outlier that's going to be run away with it out there?
No, I think it's possible. I just don't know. I'll be honest with you. I think the only person that could figure him out with the live scope, because he's so good at it, would be Ewing.
God.
And damn, we got Todd right there. Right there on time in the comments was Todd.
Boy, he was ready. Fire. He'll be out there doing something goofy.
He might be able to figure those smallmouth out with that live scope. I don't know. I don't know if he'll get on the right stuff of where, if he can find enough of them. That's the key, is finding enough of them.
Well, we'll find out next Monday. We'll talk to him about it.
Yeah. But here's what I think will happen. I think somebody will have 91, 92 on the first day. And then I think they'll follow it up with like an 86 or so and win it with that.
Just hang on.
Yep. Yeah, 92 the first day and 86 or so the second. That's my call.
All right, Brian, we got to start this Calcutta or whatever ASAP because we're making some bank right here.
I love the Calcutta idea. I grew up playing golf with Calcuttas and I always thought it could translate to fishing pretty well.
Let's do it. We hadn't been to jail for gambling yet, so
we got to break some laws. Arkansas's got casinos now, so maybe I can do it from here. Call it.
We can just. you know, you're allowed to do it in Kentucky as long as you just call it horse racing.
Yeah. I
Very
got some
true.
friends over on the res. They can
We
do
can-
Shauna Cord
We
to
can
do it, or Luke.
euthanize somebody at the boat ramp and just call it Churchill Downs, and they don't care. It's all legal.
Can we
Wow.
vote on who we euthanize?
Can we just euthanize the boat? Can we do
Sure,
the boat?
yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Oh
Wow.
boy.
Yeah, things are out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it happens.
It's a good way to end it, boys.
Matt Zapala,
Yep.
are you watching? What do we need to do? What's our next step?
Delete. Delete tonight's episode.
Oh, jeez, yeah. Any more questions in here? Let's see. Oh, there was one. This was to Ryan, but Jay, you can comment too. So, what do you know about the fish dying on chick and nickajack? There's some sort of virus going around on Tennessee.
Chick has a big fish kill going on right now. It started out as mainly catfish, and now it's more game fish as well. There's a lot of crappie, bluegill, and largemouth, big largemouth, turning up with this white kind of fungus looking thing on them. Nobody, I mean, I haven't heard. Jay, have you heard what may be the cause of it? I've seen the pictures and reports and stuff, but it's
the
looking
only
bad.
thing that I read is that they're saying that where we haven't had as much rain, there's not as much water moving through the system, and it's getting a little bit stagnant. I know today on Kentucky Lake there was very little current out there, and the lake is up. I suspect that they're holding back the Tennessee and Cumberland rivers. They're not letting as much water through the system because they've got so much snow runoff coming from the Midwest on the Mississippi River. I think they're just trying to manage all that water. And I just don't think there's as much water moving through the system. And it could just be an oxygen issue. I really don't know.
Yeah, Bubba Jones on Facebook is calling it an STD of some sort. I don't know.
Well, it could be herpes. Or something.
Bubba wears socks with his chacos or something though, right? So I don't know how much. I don't know how much we need to take advice on leg from old Bubba Jones.
Bubba's a legend.
I don't know if he's wearing socks with chacos, he probably knows all about STDs. So it's awesome.
There we go. There we go.
I know you had it in you, Jay. There we go.
All right.
Corey Racer, yes, we already talked about the North Carolina deal tonight. We did.
Thank you, Corey.
Yeah, so go back and watch that later. But don't leave yet because we're going to do a giveaway here shortly. So, yeah, Crocs and socks, Bubba. You the man. Love it.
Boy.
Yeah. We wanted to get your insight, Jay, what you thought about Kentucky Lake, the status of the lake, and, of course, you gave us the juice. Like Jay Wallen.
Yep, it's not dead. It's not dead. It's on life support, but it's not dead.
You're telling me there's a chance.
There is a chance.
Mark Menendez is making it happen. He did it. He's bringing it back.
I'm going to slide up there Wednesday and wait on Jeff.
That's it. I'll be there Thursday.
All right.
Thursday late. All right, Jay, we're going to do this giveaway. You want to slide out here? I know
Yes,
you're
sir.
almost home. We appreciate you, sir, as always. One of our favorite guests here. So
Thank you, Jay Bird.
Thanks. Thank you for having me, fellas.